Mike Johnson has got at least four factions he's got to navigate here. He's got the moderates who are concerned about some of the Medicaid and other spending cuts in the Senate. He's got the fiscal hawks who are concerned about, the Senate bill not going far enough in cutting spending. He's got the group concerned about the energy credits that the Senate is pushing back on. And by the way, that group goes in both directions. Some think the Senate went too far. Some think the Senate did not go far enough. And then finally, of course, we've got the SALT caucus, who, for one, seems to be pretty happy for now about the Senate bill.
But what you're great at, John, is the balancing of their interests in cigar-filled smoky rooms. And the answer is the president feels this is going to go through because of the net benefit to business and capitalism. I mean, basically that's what's driving this thing forward, right?
First of all, you make Washington sound way more fun than it is. And tulips and cigars and all that. Really, must spend most of my time having coffee on Capitol Hill. But fair enough point. The president truly believes that, putting aside the individual tax cuts, right? Those are politically important. From a policy point of view, some bipartisan support for those. But the business side is something that both Capitol Hill and the White House really want to get through to drive economic activity in 2025 and 2026, of course, before those all-important midterms in 2026.
Is this bill, as it's currently written, John, is this pro-growth?
I think so. I mean, you can point to several provisions in here that are pro-growth, probably none more than the ability for companies to write off their CapEx. Right? If you go out and build a factory, you buy equipment, that sort of thing, you get to write off 100% of that in day one. And I think that economists of all stripes have said over the years repeatedly that is a pro-growth policy.
This bill adds to annual deficits, the total national debt. Should anybody care?
Well, first of all, it adds only as much as you want to believe it adds, because we're dealing with multiple versions of math on this bill. But I don't think there's any debate that it will definitely add to the debt. And it's just a question of how much. And again, this is one of the needles that Mike Johnson is going to have to thread to get this through the House, because the Senate accounting on this is, let's call it novel. And he's got to convince his deficit hawks in the House that accounting is reasonable. So we'll see. You hear people talking about it, but will they actually stand in the way of this bill? I'm not sure.
The president has as much influence as any president recently across the board, including the House of Representatives. I can't see a scenario where this thing doesn't pass simply because President Trump wants it to pass.
It is my view that this bill will pass. The only real question for me is when. Of course, the president desperately wants to get this done by 4th of July. What a moment for him, of course, to get his signature legislative achievement in this term. There's no doubt about that. Done by the 4th of July. However, it's going to be challenging to get this through the House on this super compressed timeline. Remember, the House was supposed to be out. They're flying members back from all over the country. We don't even know how many members are going to show up on the floor of the House of Representatives for this vote. So it's going to get done. I do think it will get done. Will it be exactly this bill, and will it be this week? I don't know.
John, have you ever seen tax cuts increase growth? I mean, CBOs at a conservative GDP look forward 10 years. Can growthiness click in here? Do you see any history of that going back to your time at House Ways and Means?
I think you go further than the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, right? That Trump's 1.0 signature achievement. There definitely was some growth around the policies there. I think the harder question, though, is will that growth be offset? Does it offset the increase in the deficit? That is a very hotly debated question that, again, they'll argue about forever. But will it grow the economy? Yeah, I don't think that's a super controversial thing. Not all provisions are created equally, by the way. Some are better at that than others. The real question is, what is its net effect on the deficit?